Congresswoman Sewell, it is so great to see you.
It's always a pleasure to see you, Nicole.
I'm so proud of you.
No, I'm proud of you. I want to think that when I first came to Washington, D.C., you were my very first chief of staff. I really credit you for putting us on the right path. And I want to thank you for that. So it's exciting.
Thank you. And you've put me on the right path. So let's talk a little bit about just your path here in Congress and the work that you've done. You have taken Capitol Hill on by storm, and you sit on one of the most powerful committees, the Ways and Means Committee. Tell me a little bit about it. What is the jurisdiction? What agencies do you oversee?
Well, first of all, if you had told me when I was growing up in Little Selma, Alabama, that I would one day be a member of Congress, I would have said, no way. But be a member of Congress and call John Lewis, colleague, was just over the top. And one of the things that I loved about John's career is that he was on Ways and Means. And so when I think about the spark that what made me want to be on Ways and Means, it's definitely the mentorship of John Lewis. But it's also the jurisdiction covers so many important issues to Alabama's 7th Congressional District: health, trade, tax. And, my background is corporate, and I was a bond lawyer. So, the whole tax really was appealing. Social Security's in our jurisdiction. And so it's a wide varying jurisdiction. It's the tax, and it used to be the tax and spend, and now it's just the tax, but we raise all the revenue in the Ways and Means Committee. And when I think about my district, Alabama's 7th Congressional District, it's a historic district that includes the cities of Birmingham and Montgomery and my hometown of Selma. The opportunity to intern for my member of Congress was really what sparked my interest. And back then, my district was the poorest district in the state of Alabama, with the highest unemployment, with the highest dropout rate. And when I inherited it 24 odd years later, it still was the poorest district. I often say that what we lack in economic prosperity, the district makes up for in heart and spirit and fight. That it was amazing people of my district that brought us the Civil Rights Act of 1964
Absolutely.
And the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And so for me, creating economic opportunities, providing better resources, more resources, so that people in my district can reach their full potential. After all, look what's possible with resources and opportunities. And so that's always been my guiding post. And the ability to be on one of the most powerful committees and be able to direct resources or authorizing programs around health disparities. Mm-hmm. That's powerful. Mm-hmm. To be able to help my district, I have Mercedes-Benz in my district and Hyundai in my district. And so trade's very important to my district. And then I have so many young people. I know that STEM education is really critically important these days, and there's lots of resources around that. And so being able to help, especially the girls, focus on, educating themselves and being able to really get into fields that obviously weren't necessarily for women before. So look, at the end of the day, when I think about my journey here in Congress, my job every day is to help the folks in Alabama reach their full potential and to fight for more resources and better equitable distribution of those resources for the folks back home. And so Ways and Means helps me do that.
Let's talk a little bit about just how best to deliver citizen services in the most efficient way. And I am just so privileged and honored to have served as your chief of staff and am now head of global government relations for ServiceNow. And our mission is to make the world of work better for people. And our CEO, Bill McDermott, says that the world works with ServiceNow. And he's absolutely right. And so how can we help? How can the private sector help the government get rid of these old legacy software systems so that constituents like yours in both the rural and urban parts of Alabama can receive information? You mentioned Social Security, right, and the IRS. And in order to access information, in order to submit your tax return.
It's such a lot of bureaucracy.
Right.
And I think that the ServiceNow contract with Social Security is a great example. When I think about the inefficiencies in government, it's riddled with it. And then you think about the really important proposals of a policy that actually was implemented in the American Rescue Plan, the child tax credit. There were so many folks in my district who never filed taxes, didn't make enough money to file taxes. And yet here was an opportunity to really lift those folks out of poverty. But the whole bureaucracy around, making sure the federal government knows who you are, knows, how many children you have, just simple things like that. There just was no infrastructure. So I think that the federal government can definitely benefit from modern technology that can help us streamline the process and be able to deliver better services directly to the people, to the American people. And that's a really good example of just how broken our system is. I think we saw that the same thing with the Affordable Care Act when that was rolled out. Here we were trying to provide health insurance to folks who never had health insurance before. And, the policy was right, but the implementation of it was definitely stifled by lack of current technology. And, we in the federal government are known for our bureaucracy, and being able to cut through that is, especially in this day and age when we have wonderful resources that can help us do that, is much needed.
As many of us migrate our phones to 5G, I'm sure that there are parts of your district that would just like some form of G, right?
Yeah,
so that they
absolutely.
can access healthcare,
Yeah.
Telehealth, or as credentials begin to become digitized, like these, the vaccine, the QR code, driver's licenses at some point will become digitized, and passports and et cetera. And so how important is it that your constituents have access to broadband?
It is critically important. I think that I am really excited about the bipartisan infrastructure bill that finally got across the finish line. In my time here in Congress, we've had many infrastructure weeks and infrastructure days. And finally, we have an infrastructure bill that will contribute to the state of Alabama $100 million. Wow. That's just based on the formula per capita. And so it could get more when we think about the prioritization of areas that have been underserved or not served at all. I think this pandemic has really laid bare the systemic disinvestments that we've made across a myriad of infrastructure. But when I think about the need for broadband, I can't tell you how stressed it was to see kids their parents having to take them to the parking lot of the McDonald's in order to have connectivity to be able to do their work during the pandemic. And this is an opportunity for us to equitably distribute something that is so vitally important. The internet is surely the electricity of our generation, and it is a must. And I want to make sure that the students in my district, that the parents in my district are not left behind, that the folks in my district aren't. And so I think it starts with broadband. We know that we're moving towards more telehealth, and that delivery of that service and a technology is really important. And then all of us had to work from home. So we are seeing so many more people start businesses that are home-based. And so being able to market their products on the internet is something that's important as well. So I think that, the internet broadband is definitely the electricity of our generation. And just like we rolled out electricity in every hamlet and every village, I want to make sure that the folks in my district, especially the rural parts of my district, are not left behind.
Our CIO is Chris Betty, and he recently had a meeting with the White House Cybersecurity Director, Chris Inglis. Yeah. And he talked about as federal dollars go toward modernizing infrastructure, that resiliency should be embedded in that process so that we won't see what took place in Pennsylvania with that bridge that collapsed, right? And how important is that, given all that's happening around the world with cybersecurity?
I sat on the Intel committee for 8 years, and I can tell you that when we think about modern infrastructure, and we even think about the latent infrastructure of yore, I think the maintenance and deferred maintenance of infrastructure has been a serious problem. And I do believe that as we're rolling out better infrastructure, resiliency should definitely be first and foremost in our minds. Likewise, I think it's also a matter of access, because so often underserved urban areas as well as rural areas are often not thought of when you think about major highways and infrastructure. And yet, it's important that those parts of America also get services and also have an opportunity to be able to create the byways. What I love about the infrastructure bill is that it creates jobs now, but builds the infrastructure for the future. So it's a win-win, right? It's a win
Yes.
today with great jobs, great paying jobs. I can tell you that my the pavers and the road builders in my district are really excited about the opportunity to do this. And for me, it's about accountability. I want to make sure that this money gets to the constituents that really need it most first. You know, there are parts of my district that will always benefit from federal resources because they know how to access it. And then there are large swaths of my district that aren't because they don't know the questions to ask. They don't even know what's available.
That's right.
And it's our job to make sure that we are giving them every tool in the toolkit to reach their full potential.
And what we're hearing more and more is that we are living in an experience economy where constituents around the world expect and deserve to have digital experiences seamlessly and securely, quickly, right? And when we use apps to order food, you know, it will show you when the food is being prepared and how quickly it will arrive at your home. And citizens deserve the same when they are applying for benefits, disability benefits, or veterans, right?
And even their visas. I mean, I have a small immigrant population in Alabama, but nevertheless, the bureaucracy that is federal government has to be broken down. And I think that in many ways, technology can level the playing field and allow even the most remote areas be able to have access to information, access to services, access to benefits. And so I'm really excited about the prospects of this bipartisan infrastructure being able to have so much money that will actually be able to help constituents all around the country, no matter whether they're in small rural Alabama or in sophisticated New York City. It doesn't really matter. So that's really great. Or in London even, you know.
Yes.
I'm a member of the House Democratic Partnership, where we literally go around the world and work with other houses of parliament and other representative governments to really learn best practices, to share information. And everywhere, the use of technology is explosive, and it's really bringing the world at our fingertips, literally.
We are working with the Army with regard to on-post housing. And what we're finding is that years ago, if there was a problem in a soldier's barracks, that soldier had to find the base commander and use some sort of clipboard and write down their issue and then wait to have it resolved. And so now with technology, he or she can use the app, or their family member while their family is away serving can use their app and register, create the casework for this. And as you mentioned, that the issues are common across the world. This is the same sort of experience that soldiers all around the world could use.
Yep,
this is the same sort of experience that those who live in public housing could use. And we've learned recently that, but for some sort of app that tenants residents could use in public housing in the Bronx or in Philadelphia, we could have possibly prevented something like these tragic fires that have taken place. And so technology can be used, replicated around the world.
Absolutely.
With universities.
And we have to also break down barriers of fear or phobias around technology.
Yes.
When I think about communities of color, while we are very agile with our phone, I had some trouble bringing my senior citizens along when it comes to telehealth, or when it comes to being able to access the great information they need on an app, or sign up for benefits on an app.
Right.
I think that Social Security recipients are by their very nature seniors, and they are learning and it's a necessary a necessary tool to be able to really navigate the digital world. And I think that making it more accessible to kids at an early age will break down some of the fear and barriers of technology. I know that your company is really big at promoting girl code and really helping young girls break down the barriers of fear and insecurity around developing an app of
That's
their
right.
own, being able to really navigate that space. And so I think that this world is becoming smaller and smaller because of technology.
Yes, it is.
And as the world becomes smaller and really at people's fingertips, I think it's really important that we ensure that we have an equitable distribution of that technology, of that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I've been very pleased with the buzzword that seems to be coming out of what was a tragic incident with George Floyd, and that's equity. And so how are we promoting digital equity? How are we promoting health equity? And so I think that all of us can play a part, and definitely private industry. I think given the efficiencies of private industry, you all can lead the way. And I think the public-private partnership could possibly be the answer when we're talking about leveraging it and rolling it out to the masses.
I'm also finding in corporate America that while equity is important, influence is important.
Absolutely.
And so when we are at the table, can we influence decisions that are being made? Because if we can do that, that might help make a difference with regard to where resources are allocated,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Which universities
Absolutely.
are
You know this,
partners.
having spent so many years on the Hill. It wasn't until 6 women senators sat on the Senate Armed Services Committee did we even have a hearing on sexual assault in the military. And you, of course, were there when we were negotiating the Affordable Care Act. And it was women legislators at the table talking about the importance of making sure that mammograms and pap smears were a required part of any insurance policy. And that to me is how we as women are letting our voices be heard. I do believe that when women succeed, America succeeds. I think that there's no such thing as a woman's issue. It's really an American issue. It's a people issue, a human issue. And so, we have been influential as legislators on a host of issues that face this country. I know I sat on Intel, and oftentimes we were the sole committee that would look at classified budgets for CIA and other security agencies. And every director that came before me the first year I was there didn't look like me. There were no women, there were no people of color coming before us as directors of these important agencies. And so, while sometimes when you have a seat at the table, you don't want to ask the obvious question, if you're the only seat at the table, it is incumbent upon you that you do, right? And so here I was having an opportunity to interview, ask a question of all these agents and agency directors. And so I finally just, said, so talk to me about what you're doing to promote gender equality. Talk to me about how many women are in your ranks, retention, promotion of women and people of color. And it was a right question to ask when you look at the government writ large and you see that women and African Americans make up a third. Why is it in these agencies with these huge $1 trillion, clandestine budgets, they too have to get with the program? At the end of the day, the diversity of America is our strength. And I love to, growing up in Alabama and representing the University of Alabama, make the analogy that when you don't have the best players on the field, when you are sidelining women and people of color, you're not producing the very best talent on that field. And that's what our global competitiveness requires these days. And every corporation, every governmental entity, that we have to be forward leaning when it comes to giving these opportunities in an equitable way, so that we can really make sure that everyone reaches their full potential and that we have the right players, the right talent on the field.
Absolutely. Congresswoman, one of our favorite songs is by Whitney Houston. I believe the children are the future. Yes. Tell me about just the work that you're doing to prepare this next generation for these 21st century jobs that you're hearing about from companies in your district.
Well, leveraging these amazing companies in my district and trying to get more internship and apprenticeship programs, workforce development. It's a win-win for the corporation because they get a chance to help develop new talent and potentially new employees. And it's the perfect way to help students actually attain a skill and be able to get good jobs, right? I think about my district with all the HBCUs that are in my district. Alabama State, the Alabama State University where my mom and dad went to school, Miles College and Lawson State, and creating partnerships between Honda and
Daimler.
Yeah, absolutely, and Mercedes and Shelton State. Those are the things that are within my realm of, it's hard to pass legislation to get 218 people to agree, but it's easy to convene roundtable discussions with presidents of your colleges and the head of the Mercedes-Benz facility to talk about apprenticeship programs and partnering with one another. I do believe that making sure that we are getting the best talent means that we are promoting our historically Black colleges and our minority serving institutions. They are the reason why we have Black doctors and Black lawyers today, and they're still relevant today. I think about all of the amazing folks that are in the Black colleges in my district, and so I think that the best way that we can prepare them for the future is working with industry, developing public-private partnerships that promote skills training, workforce development, that actually will develop the next Nicole Francises of the world. And that's how we move it and pay it forward, frankly. I had the great honor of meeting so many foot soldiers, but one in particular was Amelia Boynton Robinson. And, people would come up to her. She was 103 years old. She'd been bludgeoned on that bridge in Selma, Alabama as a foot soldier. Here she was talking to members of Congress. And so to a person, we all said the same thing. Oh, Miss Amelia, we stand on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. I think she got tired of hearing that. And she said at 103, get off my shoulders, all of you. Do your own work is what she said. Mm-hmm. And what a great thing to remember. I actually have it on a Post-it in my bathroom. Do your own work. And all of us have work to do to uplift those in whose footsteps we travel, and creating new footsteps for others to travel. It's not enough to be the first African American Congresswoman from Alabama. I want to break down those barriers so that I'm definitely not the last.
One of the programs that ServiceNow has that I'm really proud of is called Next Gen. Yeah. And oftentimes we hear about tech companies that are teaching students to code, and there's a professor that I used to have who says, dogs can code, everyone can code. But the next step to that is helping them get an internship and helping them get a job. Yes. And that's what we do. We train students, veterans, those who need to be reskilled. They get a certificate and an internship, depending upon their level, or a job. And then that job is not just with ServiceNow. The opportunity, it's vast. It's with some of these customers within our ecosystem, Tesla, or the federal government, one of the agencies, and I really like that.
You just never know how you touch people's lives, right?
That's right.
And I think that what I learned from these amazing foot soldiers is that ordinary people can literally achieve extraordinary social change. John would say in a nonviolent way.
Yes.
John Lewis would say that. But, these were ordinary folks. I think that all of us who walk in their footsteps owe it to them to pay it forward. And I think that you're doing that every day at ServiceNow. And I'm just so happy that you were in my life, and I can't imagine where I would be if you weren't my first chief of staff. So it's just great to be a part of this and to see how you're flourishing and growing and how you're contributing to such an amazing organization. They're lucky to have you.
Thank you. And I'm paying it forward
Yeah.
through my own children. So thank you. And we just look forward to working more closely with you to continue making a difference in this world.
Thank
you,
you.
Congresswoman Sewell. Thanks so much.